We're talking about America as a country, we're talking about India as a country, we're talking about Southeast Asia, we're talking about Fiji. The percentage of the GDP of MSME contribution, it ranges from 75% to 20%. So today, we're talking about $6+ billion of GDP. Out of that, basically 21% coming from the MSME, that is contributing 63-64% of the employability. There are countries which contributes almost 87% of the employability. Always the focus has been the big corporate groups. Focus has been the public sector. Focus has been the private large conglomerate. But please understand, the large corporate, one point in time, was an MSME. That should be always there in the mind. But how the MSME was transformed to a large corporate? If you ask them, there is only one great secret they can say. In those days, it is called as economies of scale. Whoever has been able to deploy the economies of scale, they have been able to reduce the cost. Fiji as a market, I always use this as my favorite jargon. You all coming from a diverse background, but we all know 5 P's of marketing, being price, promotion, product, place, so on and so forth. But in Fiji, unfortunately, all the 5 P's are price. Now, this is the first challenge. And the second challenge is basically the commoditization taking a toll. Those days, when a simple commodity was sold at a premium margin, now the simple commodities are basically sold at dog's margin. It was in BCG matrix. We put basically 4 different kinds of product. The highest quadrant being the cash cow, the lowest quadrant being the dogs. When I say dogs, don't have to take it literally. The products that makes the least of the margin. Okay. In this house, probably 200 people sitting. How many of you are basically handling a product of single margin? At least I would be there. And all the retail hardware, any retail businesses, any FMCG product, you are sitting on a single-digit EBITDA margin. This requires a shift in the paradigm. When I say the word shift in the paradigm, where it starts. If one particular problem that is going to be focused in Twitter today, which is going to be addressed by all the global leaders, you know what would be the hashtag? Only one, de-risking. The whole world has started consolidating post-COVID. The only one challenge that the world is seeing as of now is the supply chain challenge. The whole world is basically in VUCA state. I don't have to tell what is VUCA. You all know what is VUCA. Volatile. Any answers? Exactly. Uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This was basically the acronym which was there before 4 or 5 years. But now VUCA is no longer the VUCA. VUCA has been replaced by something called as BANI. What is this BANI? There is nothing called volatile now. The whole economies of scale, economies of scope is getting into the brittle mode. B stands for brittlity. A stands for basically anxious. People are no longer talking about uncertainty. People are talking about how anxious they are. Because the whole world is getting into the dynamism mode. The consumer preferences are not the same. It is changing day by day. The economies of scales are changing day by day. The preferences are getting volatile. Supplies are becoming inconsistent. Suppliers are getting sporadic. So VUCA has become BANI. B stands for brittle, A stands for anxious, N stands for non-linear, and I stands for incomprehensible. That's how the value chain is getting demystified. Okay, is BANI the be-all and end-all? Answer is perhaps no. The World Economist in the IMF Forum, they have coined another acronym by the name RUPT. What is this RUPT? R stands for rapid, U stands for unpredictable, P stands for paradoxical, and T stands for tangled. See, just imagine what kind of transformation the whole globe is going through. It is no longer VUCA, it is no longer BANI, it is no longer RUPT. After COVID, the so-called IMF people, the best of the stalwarts, these people are basically known for creating jargons, that's all. They don't understand what the problems are. They don't understand what is the solution to the problem. But the solution to the problem is basically creating an acronym. They created another acronym. Okay, and that acronym is perhaps TUNA. Very interesting. What is TUNA? T stands for turbulent, U stands for uncertain. They picked up from UCA. N stands for novel and A stands for ambiguous. So now, are we in UCA? Are we in Bani? Are we in Rupt? Are we in Tuna? I don't have the answer. But today, all the four syndromes that I spoke about now is faced by one sector, MSME. Because large corporate, they are like a stream, they go on forever because they have the established market share, they have the established capital, they have the established asset base. So they don't have to basically go and beg for the money. Today, MSME, they want to grow. They have the idea. Every idea is being explored. Every explored idea is being experimented. Every experimented idea is being executed. Every executed idea is being exploited. When I say the word exploited, it is not for the literary sense of it. I talk about exploitation in terms of making money, in terms of making profit. Because the ostensible purpose of any business is to make money. If the business is not making money, might as well you shut the door and say that I am an NGO or a non-profit organization. But today, interestingly, NGOs are making better profitability because for them, after cost of goods sold, it's all basically a very linear costing that derives their economies of scale and profitability. And interestingly, they don't have the corporate income tax of 25%. So we are in this challenging world. How to navigate? I always tell a story. Every MSME will have to go through this syndrome, demystify supply chain, demystify supplies, demystify suppliers, demystify customers. Today, we are not talking about product. The whole product market in this global economy is gone for a six. Because people have started talking about the total life cycle of product management. People have started talking about total life cycle of customer. People have started talking about total cost of ownership. We are navigating in that particular direction. Okay, no longer it is basically I have a product, I will go and sell. And most importantly, what was there before 20 years, it was a buyer's market. Today, it is seller's market. The e-com has disrupted the whole economy. You will not believe India, with an export potential of close to $957 billion across the globe, which is close to $1 trillion, which is 25% of the total GDP, the startup ecosystem is valued at $357 billion. What is happening there? The ecosystem partners are getting married to each other. When I say, what is the ecosystem partner? One side you have the angel investor, one side you have the venture capitalist, one side you have the government mission in terms of supporting the startup ecosystem, and one side you have basically the entrepreneur. So, in developed country, it is not called as an entrepreneur, they call it as edupreneur, they call it as techpreneur, depending upon the domicile of the business that they design and carry forward their business line of activities. Today, we are in that world, whether it is UCA or Rupt or Bani or Tuna. I would put it in a very simple, comprehensible way. If it is volatile, let's have a proper vision. If it is uncertain, let's understand. What is the meaning of understanding? Understanding my customer, understanding my supplier. Because towards the end of the day, business is all about receivables and payables. Working capital is all about difference between the payables and receivables. I'm not a finance guy. Okay, finance people will throw a lot of jargons. To me, it's very simple, as simple as that. My working capital is what I receive and what I spend. I need to manage that spectrum. That is my working capital. Understand your supplier, understand your customer. Third, yes, complexity can be demystified, can be broken by giving a proper clarity. And finally, if you're ambiguous, leave the ambiguity over there and get on with the mode of agility. So to me, the solution for MSME to navigate the scalability is have a proper vision, have a proper understanding, have a proper clarity, and finally be agile. Agility is what towards the end of the day? Coping with the challenges that is there in the market. As simple as that. It could be a supply chain jargon. But what is that? What my consumer wants? My consumer is ready to pay for what he wants. If it is available at the right place, at the right price band, at the right positioning that he wants. Towards the end of the day, it's all about positioning, targeting. So, while scalability is one thing, Positioning and targeting is the second thing. So how to navigate this? I have a few slides. I said the whole myth is basically supply chain. Today, the whole supply chain is collapsed post-COVID. COVID has taught us a lot of lessons. In fact, Fiji, one of the important lessons, the ostensible lesson that the COVID has taught us, we can also live without tourism. Yes, certain businesses have come to a kind of standstill, but still, the economy is resilient. I would not say it's not that bad. We can say, okay, inflation is going to reach 6%, but inflation is not going to be 11%. Just imagine if it is going to be like in Europe, when the inflation is going to touch 33%. What will happen? If a normal inflation is 33%, my retail inflation is 1.5 times of it. Will the country survive? We are in a land today which is very blessed. Our interest rates are still at between 3.5 to 4%. What is happening across the border? You don't get basically working capital loan for less than 5 to 7% in Australia. New Zealand, it is hovering between 11 to 12%. You are blessed here with 3.5 to 4%, which means that there is a liquidity. And we are all thankful to RBF, which gave a stimulus of $200 million. And I am a standing example for basically keeping my heads above the water. Had the $200 million not come in, I don't know what would have happened. Many organizations would have come to a kind of standstill. Okay. That is on a micro and macroeconomic perspective. Now coming on to basically the supply chain, which is the core of the issue. I'm going to show some internal reflections. Technology disables also. Okay, so the whole world is going through basically the cycles of commoditization. Wherever you turn around, it is commoditization. Where there is a commoditization, margins are lean. Where the margins are lean, the profitability is less. Where the profitability is less, employability also shrinks, as a result of which earnings per share shrinks and returns to the stakeholders is always a questionable product. We're not talking about product, as I said today, if you talk about before 15 years, every organization was interested in putting up basically a server, which is to the tune of cost of $1 million, which is a capex. And when you're buying an elephant, you need to buy the mahout. To manage the server, you need to have an IT guy. And the biggest eccentricity that can be delivered in any organization is the whims and fancies of the IT guy. You will not believe, because they have the typical jargons of routers, switches, and whatnot. Because you do not know the subject and you need to subscribe to his cost. Today, we are talking about everything setting up in cloud. Sorry for the IT entrepreneurs, because that is their bread and butter. Everything is on cloud. We're talking about product and service together as productization. We are not basically selling the product alone. People are looking at total cost of ownership. People are talking about aftermarket service. So that has become the core. The service is good, customer brings back customer. Service IT, that's why I said, every organization is getting into the service mode. The amount of capex is getting shrunk, the amount of opex is going up, because they would like to reduce the pattern of total cost of ownership within their organization so that they have the scalability. So, we're talking about product as a service, we're talking about infrastructure as a service, we're talking about marketing product out. When I say marketing product out, it is all about basically having the external indicators to your internal reflection, so that you reflect on what the consumer wants, design, develop those products so that it reaches them at the right point of time, at the right price. And finally, seller's market is gone. It's bygones. It's all about buyer's market, because they have preferences, they have choices. This is the disruption that has taken place in the last 10 years. What causes the supply chain disruption? A lot has been spoken since morning about the environmental factors that I'm not going to talk again. Geopolitical issues, people are staying away from China for the obvious reasons. Technological challenges, as I said, infrastructure as a service, product as a service, software as a service. The only thing that has not come up to now is people as a service. The only capital. Up to now, what has not been depreciated is the human capital. It is still staying intact. That is why you are there, I am here. Both of us are listening and talking and interacting with each other to build a consensus. One fine day, the buzzword called AI will replace that also. Today, artificial intelligence and machine learning taken a toll. We talk about a back office of a shared service center of any big banks. They've been able to replace almost hundreds and thousands of people by deploying 4 or 5 AIs. So it's not very far. Consumer behavior and market dynamics, as I said, VUCA world, it is inevitable, and global events. When I say global events, whether it is a Russia-Ukraine war, or it is the Hamas issue, Israel issue, Palestine issue, or even COVID for that matter. You never know what kind of pandemic will outbreak at what point in time. We were not ready for COVID, and COVID gave a big outbreak. And supply chain, where is supply chain now? Have we got a solution for that? No, it is still in transit. Expected delivery? I don't know, someday. Scheduled delivery? Pending indefinitely. If I see no scheduled delivery date available at this time, one more time might as well. You will get your package when you get it. Nice slogan of yours. Means that why I am paying for the parcel. It's a moot query that has to be answered by all of us. I got 99 problems, but they're all because of my supply chain. Out of my 100 problems, 99 problems are on supply chain, not only for MSME, but also for the large part. The answer lies in a single statement. It is not the economies of scale that is demanded in today's context. It is the economies of speed. There is a lot of difference between economies of scale and economies of speed. Economies of speed talks about agility. Economies of scale talks about cost optimization. Are we interested in reducing the cost, or are we interested in disrupting the market and bring that agility into my product and sell the product as a service? The whole world is moving in that value chain. And this is how basically MSME has to travel to. Of course, this is not my prescription. This is a prescription given by one of the famous economists. I'll show a small video about where MSME is all trending. Okay, it's an interesting video. Hopefully technology enables and the YouTube opens. It's 1.5 minutes. Trending now. First trend, I don't know how many of you have noticed. Entrepreneurs going alone. It talks about the MSME growth engine. It talks about the spirit of the entrepreneurship in MSME. With this, I would like to have a storytelling. I think time is up, I believe.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. You have about a minute.
You need to give the benefit of the doubt. 3 or 4 minutes. Okay. In Hindi and Urdu, there are 2 words. One is called as ijazat and one is called as izzat. I always tell this story wherever I go. The word ijazat means basically permission. The word izzat means respect. It's a core of transformation where the current entrepreneurs are to where they are supposed to be to grow the MSME. You need to understand 2 things in this. Are we on a cost war or are we on an innovation war? Can we trade off cost arbitrage on a pedestal of innovation arbitrage? The whole world is looking at that one. It is not the cost arbitrage that is important. It is the innovation arbitrage that matters. Coming on to ijazat and izzat, what it means exactly. In ijazat, ask for permission. In izzat, command respect. That is the first and foremost growth pillar for making the MSMEs scalable. Ijazat, it talks about fitting into your category. Izzat, stand out by creating a category. It's all about that. That's what I mentioned about productization. That's what I mentioned about servitization. That's what I talk about infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, product as a service. You stand out. You have the uniqueness for your product. Create that uniqueness and go with that uniqueness. There is a market for it. Founder de-risks exits. It's a permission. But here, founder continues to take risk. You always go with Hindu mythology. Shiva is basically worshipped as a god. Today is Mahashivratri. He takes the poison and keeps the poison at his neck. That's why it's called as Neelkani. Neel means blue, Kani means the throat, the thoracic part. What do you mean by that? An entrepreneur has to take enough risk up to the brim, and he should never give up, never abdicate. There is no exit for him. People can resign. Entrepreneurs cannot resign. Husband and wife can divorce, mother and father cannot divorce. That's the core of it. B for valuation. B for valuation. Okay, because people in India, there is a crazy joke. The business is valued at $22 billion, but making a loss of $457 million. There are businesses like that which is being seriously funded by Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4, so many serious people. What is the use of valuation if the ostensible purpose of not making the profit is not able to be met? So it's not about don't run behind the valuation. Please run behind creating values. P for press release. Yes, all of us basically we admire by getting our names captured in the press release, so on and so forth. But P here in Izzat is all about profit, passion, and purpose. These three P's are important for an MSME journey. Seeking outward validation driven by inward motivation. Word of outsourcing, don't want to do. Finally, world of out collaboration. Don't know what to do, but has got the willingness to do. This is the kind of transformation from Ijazat to Izzat that makes the MSME a navigational scalability journey for any MSME entrepreneurs to grow and put their footprint and to grow the business. MSME logic is just 5 minutes. Is it a cost arbitrage?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interject. You have 2 minutes. If you can just condense it within the 2 minutes, we've got the rest of the afternoon.
I'm not come to the core at all. Okay. Whether it is a trade-off between a cost arbitrage or it is an innovation arbitrage. Is it globalization or it is innovation? Answer is globalization. It is neither globalization a key nor an innovation a key. It is a globalization. MSME should look for that. Response to uncertainty is the core and most important recipe for the success of any MSME. We have so many sources of uncertainty starting from supply chain disruption, evolving consumer needs, dynamic employee behavior, competitive landscape shifts, speed of tech advancements, regulatory policy changes, volatile financial markets, global political instability, climate change impacts. Now I would like to just classify the MSME into just 3 categories. One that are fragile, one that are resilient, one that are anti-fragile. From fragile to anti-fragile is a journey. You drop the iPhone 10, it breaks, just tell you. Then it is fragile. You drop the iPhone 10, it doesn't break. It's all about resilience. You drop the iPhone 10 and pick up the iPhone 10 in your hands, it becomes iPhone 15. That is your anti-fragility. MSME has to go through the transformation to become scalable, to deploy economies of scale and economies of speed, to reduce the cost, to create a cutthroat competition with these established players just by being anti-fragile. And finally, uncertainties or not uncertainties, they are a breakthrough for innovations. Keep that in mind. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every disaster is a bigger opportunity. But this, I open the floor for question in case Honorable MC is going to allow. Otherwise, thank you for giving the opportunity. It's always a pleasure talking to people. Wishing you all the very best. I'm here for one more minute if any questions come, because she's staring at me. But
You've spoken a lot about quite technical words, agility, fragility, earnings per share. If we contextualize this a little bit and just think of the micro enterprises in the room that are probably not familiar with English and technical terms, could you just use RC Manubai as an example? Because I think that opening remark was really good.
Okay.
At some stage in their life cycle, they were SMEs. In fact, they would have been a micro business.
still beyond MSME, I would say.
So if I could raise the question to you, if they are a small enterprise using the RC Manubai experience, and they're thinking, okay, I can't be here all the time, I need to get to the next level, what would be the top two things in layman's terms that you could encourage them with?
Product innovation and process innovation. That's it.
Could you elaborate a little further for them?
I was all for it. Okay. So when I say product innovation in a retail hardware business, you have options available always. What is the feature that you're going to give for the product that you offer, which is not given by others? That puts you on a different pedestal over your competition. And constantly leverage the supply chain and supplier. Through that, you derive economies of scale. Thirdly, when you're deriving economies of scale, don't take the dividends for yourself. Reinvest it on assets. Assets will be plowed back because that will be the source of capital for you to augment the business. When the business grows, 1x to 2x is very easy. 2x to 4x is easy. 4x to 8x, perhaps challenging, but okay. But 8x to 16x, it requires a quantum leap and you need the financial support. And bankers, financial support means collateral. So when you're growing up, build the asset. It is the asset that is going to give the hands for you in terms of augmenting your capabilities. And don't forget the fact, invest in people, invest in technology.
41 seconds on the clock. Happy to take any other question from the floor. Hand going up here, please.
Sir, thank you so much. Truly an inspirational. I do not have a question, but I have a request. I think it is a pleasure to be part of this conference as an MSME. However, I would like to request if we can have another conference or workshop where instead of our tycoons or the expertise, we will be given chance to share our stories and get constructive criticism from them so that we can actually reach to their level. It's a request if we can have another session where we will be allowed to go up there and talk about what we are facing and how we can overcome the challenges by them answering our questions. Thank you.
Excellent. I think we're all in agreement, yes? Yes. We are. So that might be a challenge for Beth and the other agencies that play within the ecosystem. We talk a lot about mentorship, but why not have that platform? You share your stories and the tycoons like RC Manubai will be able to critique and say, well, you're looking at this, but you should be looking at that. Yeah? So I think another round of applause for that final question. Thank you. Now I'd like to call upon perhaps Rajesh. Rajesh, if I could call upon Ramesh. I keep thinking Ramesh, thank you for correcting me. It's been a long 2 days. I invite you to the stage. If you could please offer our token of appreciation to Dr. Kapalan, who's done a fantastic job.